So to answer your second question, but I also want to add a comment on this inspection and auditing portion. I think this is going to be a very important role that multi-stakeholders, like what Patricia is doing, is important. Because if you learn from the experience of the apparel companies, so early on, I think this is like 15 years ago, when Nike started the whole journey of trying to make sure that they would audit their factories, their suppliers, to make sure they are compliant with labor. And all companies are doing that too. They started to do that. Levi's started doing it, and Adidas started doing it. And so there is a phenomenon known as audit fatigue. Audit fatigue is that the factories, that this week is Nike, 2 weeks from now is Levi's, and every week somebody is coming in to audit them. And they lost so much productivity and cost. So I think the only way to sustain that is to have this multi-stakeholder approach, so that we join forces and certify, instead of having everyone going to the same smelter and audit. This week is mine, next week is yours. I think that's the only way to reduce the total audit efforts. You asked a question about having foresight and being proactive. I think that's the differentiation, and I think Patricia mentioned about the electronic industries starting to do something before the legislation hit. And that's foresight. And companies in the pollution area, in the environmental area, companies are not, some progressive companies, and HP is actually one of them because I follow the HP electronic design world. And before the we and the roles, the requirements of electronic waste and how you treat the waste disposal laws hit, they started changing the design of the product. Because the ideal thing is not to have to worry about making sure that my disposal and my hazardous materials are treated properly. The better way to do it is to design products so that it would minimize the hazardous material to begin with. I would design things so that I would use as minimal as possible these kind of materials that are expensive to be disposed of or could not be recycled and less free. So the same thing is that can we think about a world where companies have the foresight to start thinking about, can I reduce material, even though it's a small percentage, but still, is it a way that I can design it so that I would be able to reduce that as much as possible and recycle more and more? I think that's the design foresight that hopefully companies will start pursuing.
And I just love my job so much, I'm going to comment on this question as well. So another area, maybe not on the environmental side, is companies who are choosing to do that are also looking towards sort of human rights due diligence ahead of these kind of pressures. So it's conflict minerals this week, but where is the thing going to come in 2 years' time? Is it the copper mining from Bolivia, or what's it going to be? So we want to look at our processes, our supply chain, and look at risks, look at geographical risk, look at process risk, and kind of head off where we might see big human rights impacts and try and design our systems around that. And that human rights due diligence is a growing field among the industry and still not really implemented by many, but I think is a good example of where companies can begin to have a little bit more foresight on these issues, more on the social side as opposed to the environmental side.
I would also say that there's a lot of consumer-facing platforms that are starting to be created, such as the Good Guide. Enough put, like scorecards on their websites. The socially responsible investors are constantly, as you sow, puts out a number of different reports for the investment community on where companies fall on these different things. But I do see there's a lot of issues around mining, globally. And so Zoe's right, but you need those transparency systems in place, and then that can be replicated for other regions to help address it. So I think what's great is, these things are like case studies, with cotton, it's child slave labor in Uzbekistan, minerals, it's the egregious human rights and rape and violence going on in the Congo. But once those systems get put into place, and they have transparency systems put into place to track raw commodity down, all the way down to the field of the mine, then that could be applied throughout their entire company. And, transparency is something, especially I think the younger generations having access to Google and knowing, anything that you want to know, you just type and do a search and you get it. So And we even talked at Good Guide this week about how do we ensure that the research and the information that we know what's happening at that raw commodity level can make it into how companies are being rated. So when consumers at point of purchase can learn more and know more about the companies that they're purchasing from, and then choose with their pocketbooks what kind of products they want to buy. I know we're pretty tight on time. Is there maybe like one more burning question? Over here.
This is a question regarding multi-stakeholder engagement with non-electronics industry firms. I'm just sort of wondering what actions can university stakeholders take to engage with these firms and try to address some of the similar issues relating to mining and conflict in the diversity.
So Professor Lee actually has to leave in around 5 minutes, so this might have to be a pretty quick answer.
So that's a great question. First of all, it's like, do they know how this is going to impact them, and what are they doing? And then, are they talking to any of their peers in their industries, to come up with solutions? And then there's the opportunity around the extractives working group that EICC and Jesse have organized in upcoming meetings that they're inviting others from other industries to attend. And so I think that those are the specific actions that we're looking at right now from other companies and other industries. Yeah, there's my contact information.
So thank you, everyone. I think the food has arrived for lunch, so if you go out to the back, there's a lot of delicious stuff, and hopefully we can ask Ms. Mann and Ms. Jurewicz to stay around for a little bit and potentially answer. Okay, well, so they have to leave, never mind. Sorry. But if anyone could give them a round of applause.